Let's talk about it with Ross Marchand. He's the policy director of the Taxpayers Protection Alliance, a Young Voices contributor, up late with me on the Final Five. Happy Space Command Day, Ross.
Oh, boy. Space Command Day. I feel like when anyone in Washington, D.C. talks about space, it's just cue massive eye roll, because it's not talking about space exploration. It's just talking about the expansion of a massive space bureaucracy, and taxpayers have to pay tens of billions of dollars for it.
So if you hear President Trump talk about this, we know he's been high on Space Force. He's led chants for Space Force at rallies. His campaign website sells Space Force merchandise for something that hasn't been created yet. But take us back to Space Command is something that had existed in the past in this country. It was dissolved in 2002 by the George W. Bush administration. Today at this big ceremony, they said it's about protecting us from satellite threats from Russia and China. But the tone alone, Ross, says you're not buying that.
No, absolutely not. And when it was created in the Reagan administration, it seemed like a good idea in terms of the space race with the Soviets. Obviously, we won that fair and square. And now it's not a good idea. We are, like it or not, still dominant in space, on the ground, and in the air. And when it comes to space, we, I think, have an understanding with the Chinese, for example, that there's mutually assured destruction. That if they blow one of our satellites out of the air, we could do so likewise. And they've seen us run tests, and we've seen them run tests. So there's that mutual understanding. It does not make any sense to pour an additional tens of billions of dollars. We're talking $13 billion over the next 5 years into this Space Force. It's just a boondoggle waiting to happen.
We have seen a tremendous amount of interest from the private sector to monetize and to create a vehicle in which, A, Americans can travel to space, but B, ways to develop technology that fill the void left by the ending of the space shuttle program and other ways of space exploration. You have Elon Musk, you have Jeff Bezos. I know it saddens the president sometimes to mention Jeff Bezos' name. We know he's not a fan of him, but regardless, there is a hunger, it seems, for private space exploration, private space research. Does this hinder that at all?
Yeah, and you see that private drive every day. Every day you see billions of dollars in pledged investments going into outer space. And when the government gets involved and they say, we're going to make this a defense endeavor instead of an exploration endeavor, that puts a chilling effect on private investment. It says to space entrepreneurs, wait, hold on, military takes first priority in any sort of exploration, any sort of, for example, a commercial endeavor to explore the moon or to explore Mars, that takes a back seat to military ambition. And I think that's completely misguided.
Speaking of Space Force again, this is something that it would be another branch of the military. It does require congressional approval. It requires a lot of money. It is not a done deal. But again, the president says this is one of the top priorities. And to be honest, Ross, a lot of people look at this and say, you know, it's about American exceptionalism. It's about being first. It's being the undisputed power titan of space. So why is that problematic?
Right, and we fought those battles over the decades with the Russians. We fought those battles over the decades with the Chinese, and we won. And now, I think to overextend our resources and to push this debt into $30 trillion territory would be a fatal mistake. You have military analysts, you have generals over the years saying, what is the #1 threat to national security? The debt, the growing debt. So we should not sink more resources into this black hole that taxpayers cannot get out of and bury future generations in debt and embolden our enemies in the process.
Is it more about national defense, or is this more about scoring political points and to be quite honest, something that the president can put his name on when all is said and done?
It's all about scoring political points. And this is not investing money into national defense. This is not